Welcome to the Coaching Table. I'm Thomas Thompson, Executive Leadership Coach with Lead Self, Lead Others. And the Coaching Table is a weekly conversation I put out there to help leaders like you have the conversations that you're not having so we can get and keep your story moving forward. Today's conversation centers around finding direction. There are always these moments in life where we're wondering, what is next? And I work with a ton of people that are considering transitions or trying to figure out, is there a transition company coming? I had a conversation last week with someone who said, I'm not sure if this next chapter is done in my life or if the book is done and I need to move on to something else. We're all in those places. Well, one of the things that I read when I first came to faith in Christ was a verse out of Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. And it was so powerful what I read that I committed it to my memory. Trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. Isn't that astounding to think that while we're trying to figure out what's next and trying to cut through all the confusion, that there's a God up there who says, I long to direct your path. How does he do it? Well, sometimes it seems pretty clear in the Bible that he just points in a direction, or he says, I want you to go here, I want you to do this. And believe me, if God tells you to go and do something, go do it. But often it seems like he kind of leads us in different ways. And one of the ways I think he leads us is kind of what I like to use an analogy of a sailboat. If you ever notice a sailboat does not just point its bow towards the right direction and go towards its destination. The sailboat is always trying to catch the wind. The sailboat is always asking, is the wind in this? And it will take that direction as long as the wind is blowing that way. And if the wind shifts or if it needs to kind of change course, it'll go and catch the wind again. And it'll continue to catch the wind until it eventually arrives at its destination. It's called tacking. It's what sailboats do. And I think it's what we do in our lives as well. And sometimes God is leading us in a certain way, and we're trying to figure out, well, maybe this is the thing that God's leading me towards, and maybe it is, or maybe it's not. But if it's not, we tack, and we again catch the wind. How do we catch the wind as we're seeking direction? I like to call these exploratory moves. Exploratory moves are things I offer clients to do that don't involve tons of risk and don't involve tons of commitment, but are just exactly that. They are moves you can make to keep going forward while you're exploring. And you're always asking the question, is God's wind in this? An exploratory move could be information gathering. Just trying to find out more about a position or an opportunity. I worked with a client once who was feeling some kind of tug towards civic service and wondering about what that could look like on a school board in his city. And so the exploratory move for him with information gathering was simply to meet with a school board member and say, can I interview you? Tell me about what you do. Tell me about how that makes an impact. How did you arrive at this position? Information gathering. Another kind of exploratory move are small action risks. Small action risks. They're not big risks. They're just a small step you can take. A number of years ago when I was trying to figure out what was next for me in my life, one of the things I was considering was working with an academic setting like a seminary. And so a small action risk I took was to step out and to actually work for a year as an adjunct leading some preaching classes at a local seminary here in town, here in the state. During that time, I was seeing as God's wind in this. And what I discovered was there were some aspects about that I really liked. I really liked working with people, but I did not like the academic setting. And so I quickly, within about a year, realized, okay, God's wind is really not in this, but it's important that I did it because now I can see clearly some other things in my life. A third kind of exploratory move would just be to work your network. Years ago, I was in a position at a church where I was realizing I think that God might be preparing me for a larger kind of leadership platform, but I don't know what that is and I don't know how to go about that. And so I just reached out to about 10 to 15 important people in my life, good friends, people I trusted, and I just was honest with them. I said, hey, I don't know what's next for me, but I'm open to something. Would you keep me top of mind Within a week, I had one of my best friends from college call me and say, hey, there's a situation, there's an opportunity here in Texas that I think might be great for you. Would you be interested in it? Ended up going there and serving for 7 years. What it took, though, was for me to be able to step out in faith and explore a little bit and work my network. So exploratory move might be information gathering. It might be small action risks. It might even be working your network. But you're taking a move to explore and ask the question, is God's wind in this? So if you are in a situation now where you're wondering maybe if God might be stirring you towards some kind of transition, I want to give you the coaching table question for this week, and it's this. What exploratory move is God calling you to take? I'd like you to wrestle with that question and think about it and take that little step and see if God's wind might be in something that He's leading you to do. Well, I'll be back next week with another coaching table conversation. And until then, you're always welcome at the coaching table.